I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
No, it is such a scintillating intro from Jordan Good, and with an amazing guitar solo by Matt Young. That's what a great addition to this podcast that we'll have going forward. Well, I guess it will be on the first one too, won't it?
Yeah. Well, we'll have to put it in, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's been here all along, but this is the first time we can credit them. So there it is. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Michigan Golf Review Podcast. I'm Pat. With me, of course, is Andrew and Zach, two much better golfers than I am. And today we're going to... What?
For now.
For now, yeah. I will likely pass you. Anyway, today we are going out a little bit from downtown Grand Rapids to Saskatoon Golf Club, which Zach has so perfectly summed up as the best bang for your buck in terms of golf in Michigan, West Michigan anyway. And so it's exciting. Before we get started, though, I do want to ask a question from the two of you about a hypothetical golf course in my head that's been banging around because I've been obsessed again for the last couple of weeks with Jurassic Park. Would you guys like to play on a golf course that was along some dinosaur paddocks?
Man, seems dangerous. Because like if you're near Diplodocus, like you could be taking a swing and just catch one to the face. Next thing you know, you're Dennis Nedry in a mud pit. So I don't know. It'd be wet too.
It would be wet.
I'd say yes, just something different.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Anyway, let's jump into Saskatoon.
Nothing like Jurassic Park.
So Zach, let's start with our ranking. Of course, we go through 18 of them here. We're starting with history because that's, what you start with. This course doesn't have a lot of history. It's kind of old from the 60s, but not a lot. What are you gonna go ahead and give it?
I gave this one a 4. It's a little on the older side. You're right, built in the 60s. But, when I looked, I couldn't find any notable tournaments or any kind of cool, fun facts about it. So it's a little old, but yeah, I gave it a 4.
Andrew, how about you?
Yeah, 4 for me as well, to the same points that Zach pointed out. I think I referenced this with Indian Trails, but it's another course that my dad has talked about, so it's at least that old, in the GR area that's been around, and so it's got to get a little bit of credit in that regard.
Yeah, I'm going for 2 just all across the board, just because it's got some history, obviously, that it's been around a long time, but very little of note, as we'll get into some golf courses later in the series. So there it is. Accessibility and proximity. This is a tough one because it's a pretty far drive and you do have to take some goofy roads to get out there, but it is easy to get on because there are, how many holes are there? I forget. I think there's 5 nines, right?
Yeah.
But then there's like 3 extra too, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
there's a lot of holes, so you can get on fairly easily, but it is a drive. So I went ahead and gave it a 5, just kind of as a kind of in between, easy to get on, but hard to get to. Andrew.
5 as well. Yeah, I think given the course itself, which we'll get into, obviously, it's not the best course out there that you're willing to drive a long distance for, but it's also it's not a course that you got to go way out to in the same regard. So it could be worse, could be better.
And Zach, you went a little higher than us. What's that about?
I'm kind of like doubting my ranking now, but I gave him a 7 mostly because I'm a golfing degenerate and I'll like look for a golf time the day of, and Saskatoon always produces a tee time for me. So I gave him a 7, but maybe that's a little high.
I think that's fair. I mean,
yeah.
If you want to get on somewhere and that's the only place, that's accessible.
Guaranteed tee time. I mean, don't quote me on that, but that's been my experience at least.
First impressions, it's kind of funny when you drive up, it's on 2 different sides of the road. So it's like, whoa, where do I go? So that's a lot. I do kind of like the vibe they give off, the buildings. They're pretty cool. So I went ahead and gave them a 5, just kind of because it does look kind of basic from the outside, but still kind of cool. Zach.
Yeah, I also gave him a 5. It does kind of present like a rural municipal course, which first impressions wise, like you don't expect too much out of it. But we'll get into the benefit that Saskatoon brings beyond that. But yeah, I give him a 5.
Andrew.
5 as well. Pat, you mentioned it with the multiple, entryways. Whenever there's a golf course like that, it always throws me for a loop, and then I'm wondering, am I even in the right place to begin with? And then it's a 50-50 shot on your first visit. So yeah, nothing crazy to write home about.
Pro shop, Zach. I'm gonna let you lead this one again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the main pro shop is a little like old looking. It's got a lot of character, which I do like. But it's not like on the nicer side of pro shops. They're very well stocked and they have a lot of options. But I went ahead and gave them a 7 just because they have 2 clubhouses, which we already kind of talked about. But it just gives you 2 options for grabbing snacks and drinks and clubs and clubs. Who's buying clubs before they're around? Balls and tees and whatever you might need. So I gave them a 7 for that reason.
I mean, you might have to buy a club in the middle of the round if you snap it or you throw it in the woods or whatever. Andrew, pro shop.
Yeah, I went an 8. Just gave them an extra point because they've got dual pro shops. Sometimes pro shops, especially during busy times, can get a little stuffy. But you've got options with this one, and it's just a unique feature. Speaking of needing clubs on the course, though, I was going to find a time to put this tidbit in there. This is now as good a time as any. That one of my friends, last time I played at Saskatoon, lost his 8-iron. So if anybody listening to this ever finds an 8-iron from like 4 years ago, let me know.
Do you remember which hole?
I don't. It was a par 3. I can't remember which course we were on, but I'm sure it's long gone at this point.
I love that. I went a 7 as well. I don't have any need for pro shops at the moment, except for buying balls because I've lost too many during a round. I'm just not at that stage of my golf life, I guess. So actually, that's not true. At Pilgrim's Run, I bought a golf glove because my old one was so crinkly.
Yeah,
we'll talk about Pilgrim's Run soon. As a foreshadowing here. So, but I gave it a 7 just because you guys did. So there you go. Locker room, I don't believe they have one, so I just gave them a 2 because they do at least have a bathroom. So that's nice.
Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, and I think Zach mentioned, 2 clubhouses, double the bathroom. You get a little extra for that as well.
Yeah, Zachary.
Yeah, I also gave them a 2, and they would have gotten a 1 if they didn't have multiple places for me to do my thing before I do my thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Concessions. I loved this place. Zach, I think was it just you and me? And then one day it was you, me, and Drew, your brother, played it last year in 2 consecutive days. And it was fun because the concessions were great. I got a big giant whiskey and Coke that they just loaded with whiskey, which, depending on how you play or how much you like whiskey, it's questionable, but I enjoyed it. It was great bang for your buck in that sense. So it was great. I gave it an 8. Zach.
Yeah, I also gave him an 8 for a lot of those similar reasons. They have a good selection of snacks. They have some granola bars, some healthy snacks. And on Sundays, I think they have donuts. I think I've been there before on a Sunday where they just have donuts for you. But I also got to shout out their cart concessions because they're always around, always present, always have what you need.
Love that. Andrew?
8 as well. Pat, is Big Giant an actual size they offer for?
No, I don't believe so, but I do like that
disclaimer there. I think Zach made a great point too about the on-course offerings. It's always great to not have to wait around until you make the turn, get back to the clubhouse. So both the on-course and the clubhouse being fully stocked and having lots of options is a huge plus.
Yeah, I do get kind of sad when either place doesn't have an on-course option, or I didn't bring enough from the clubhouse and then I've got to wait for somebody to come. It is frustrating sometimes in that point of view.
I just want to crush a beer, man.
Right, yeah. And sometimes I drink really fast on the golf course, even just a soda pop, Other amenities, I don't really think they have a ton of anything, so I give them a 1. Andrew, what do you got?
1 as well. Yeah, pretty straightforward there.
Same here. Yeah, I couldn't think of anything.
Yeah. Let's see. We go to the range practice area. I don't think we utilized this at all when we went last year, Zach. I did not, at least, but there was, maybe the putting green a little bit. Didn't use the range, but the range looked decent. But I just went just pretty straight up the middle with a 5 here. Zach.
Yeah, I give them a 6 because I'm a chipper putter, chipper pitcher before a round, and they have a nice area for chipping and pitching with balls already there. You don't have to go buy range balls or anything. There's usually range balls there. 2 different putting greens too for warm up. So I give them a 6.
Andrew.
Yeah, I went 5, but Zach makes some really good points just about the amount that they have as far as 2 putting greens, which is something you would think for a place with as many holes and as much traffic as I could have any given day. And then I do really appreciate a place that will have, some range balls already out there, especially for chipping and pitching. When I putt on the putting green, I do like to roll my own ball just to get that feel. But yeah, I think overall pretty par for the course for what they offer comparatively to other places.
Pace of play, this was interesting for me because we played it 2 days in a row last year, Zach. One day was a crazy storm day, and we just waited around and got on after everybody had basically left. So we had just free run of the course, and it was very quick. And then the next day we were paired with 2 other people, and it was pretty quick still. So I went with a 7, but I haven't played it any other time, so I'll have to get out again this year to maybe change my score, maybe, who knows? But yeah, I went with a 7. Andrew.
Pace of play, I also went with a 7. I think you brought up some good points there, Pat. I mean, nothing too out of the ordinary on this one. Having a lot of holes definitely helps to spread things out.
Yeah, Zach.
Yeah, I also gave him a 7, and I in my experience there, once you get out on the course, it's not terrible. People, if they are a little slow, they'll generally let you play through. It's always just the teeing off that seems to back up quite a bit there. So
Yeah.
I would have given him a higher score, but for that reason, I gave him a 7.
Yeah, and I think the layout of the course too, and variations of the pars does
Yeah.
kind of space everything out nicely.
Yeah,
So,
no back-to-back par threes anywhere that I can
right,
think of.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you take that into account too. Is there greens? Again, I'm just this new golfer who doesn't really know anything about greens yet. So I just kind of based it on what Zach said, which I won't take that away, but I gave it the same score as him, Zach.
Thank you for not stealing my green thunder there. I also gave him a 6. I think these greens are fair. They're not the highest quality greens by any means, but they're fair. And there's not a lot of intricacy to a lot of the greens. So there's some holes that are really fun to putt on, but for the most part, it's just a very average green. But I'll give them a slightly higher than average score just because they're very fair greens. They roll true.
Awesome, Andrew.
I agree. 6. I think fair is perfect word for these greens. Nothing crazy. Not going to see a ton of undulation, but yeah, they're solid.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're moving right into highlight holes, which I went right up the middle on a 5 because while I love this course, it's a lot of fun because there are so many holes and it is just generally kind of a cool vibe when you're out there on the course. I don't remember any of the specific holes. I remember a couple of the specific tee boxes, and that's about it. So that's kind of interesting, but I still give them a 5 just kind of because it is such a kind of fun course to play at times. Andrew.
I agree. 45 holes, you're going to get a lot of holes that probably look the same. But you're also going to get, some holes that are unique. Not crazy tipping the scale one way or the other. We'll get to scenery, but there are some cool holes with water, the woods. So I can't think of any off the top of my head for the only 9 or 18 I've ever played there. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have some holes that you enjoy more than others.
Awesome. And Zach.
Yeah, I give him a 5 on this, and I wouldn't even call that like a mark down by any means. I really enjoy playing there just because it is it's generally fair but playable for beginners and learners. So I like that a lot. But they just recently built that silver 9.
Yeah.
4 years ago, maybe 2020, 2021, somewhere in there, maybe. And that 9 has some really cool holes. I wrote them down here. Let me get it. Hole 8. Oh, this is on the gold actually. Hole 8 has that kind of island green thing to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not like sawgrass or anything. There's not as much water as you'd expect from an island green, but it's like an island green still. And you get to walk across the bridge. And
No, yep.
it's fun to say you hit the green on an island green. And then on the silver, hole 4 makes me feel like I'm in a different place. Like it's got the pine trees on either side. It's a dogleg left, sort of gentle dogleg left par 5. That course transports me up north, and I love up north Michigan golfing. So there are some holes on the course that are fun, but yeah, it's not amazing stuff. Not
No,
taking
but
photos.
now that you mention it, that I do love an island green, so that was a lot.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
That was fun. Scenery, and I think this kind of plays into its location of just kind of out in the rural area, you know, and just having so much space. But I gave it a 7 because there is a lot to look at. There was quite a bit of wildlife that I was able to peep, and I do love wildlife. You'll come to find that out over the series. So yeah, 7. Zach.
Yeah, I gave it a 6. I like to see a little bit more view and landscaping. This is a very flat course in general. So it's not very spectacular, but there are some holes on the silver course that there's a par 3 that you go over like a gully as a ditch or something. That one's kind of fun to look at.
Yeah, true.
What's the difference between a gully and a ditch?
Just coolness of word, I think.
Yeah.
I was between a 7 and a 6, and I think Zach swayed me a little bit to bring it down to the 6. Flatness, I think, is a big one. And anytime there's elevation, that's going to get more. But yeah, I think it's just kind of limited to by the geography that, you know, is around it. But again, I mean, enough water and trees that are going to help its cause.
You know what? You guys are peer pressuring me. I'm going to drop mine down to a 6 as well because the flatness is a lot to the point of scenery and landscape and such. There isn't a ton of change. It is mostly forested or flat green area. So that is a 7 would be a little high, I think. I mean, I don't think you can't get to 10 except for that one course that Andrew played last year that was like on cliffs out west. I don't remember. He sent me a picture and I was like, whoa, that's cool. So I'll drop it down to a 6 because I give in to peer pressure.
Yeah, definitely rating goes up if there's a chance you could die.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Alligator, 10.
Yep.
Cliff, 10. You know, things like that.
Or those signs on the cart path that's like warning, very steep hill, and they actually like physically slow you down. That puts you up in the rankings a little
Especially if it's at a course that, you know, has some golf carts that aren't great and there's no governor. And then you're wow. Grab.
All right. Speaking of governors and golf carts, just a really basic golf cart here, which is not a problem at all, but it's a 6 for me. I mean, they had a cooler on it, so that was cool. I like keeping beverages cold, but a very basic cart. So nothing crazy. Andrew?
6 for me as well. If it's a functioning golf cart, that's all that really matters. If it's got a few little trinkets on it to help keep things, you know, clean as far as washing your clubs and things like that, that's always great too. So yeah, pretty standard here.
Awesome. Zach?
Yeah, I gave them a 6 as well. They're tricked out in terms of all the features on a cart that you'd want. They got GPS, the ball washers, club washers. Not the nicest carts, but extremely well maintained. I've never had a problem with them, and they go. So it's like Saskatoon really performs on the performance level, not on like the high end features level. And that's again why I think they're just best bang for your buck in the area.
Exactly. Difficulty. I don't think we're at all going to vary too much. So I don't know if we even need to go through this. We can. Maybe I'll just let Zach go because you've golfed it more recently than Andrew. But for a new golfer, it was a great place to play. There was not too many crazy things that were going to give me a huge challenge. So I gave it a 6, which, yeah, Andrew did as well. Zach did as well. Zach, what is your kind of take as a...
Yeah, there's a fair amount of water on this course, and there's some shots where you have to either curve it around a tree or just lay up around a tree. So there's some shots that'll challenge you, but I think for the average golfer or the beginner golfer, it's a fantastic course to learn on.
Yeah. Yeah, and then kind of hand-in-hand lost golf ball score. I went ahead and gave it a 7 because there is a lot of water, and at my stage in golf, water is just a magnet for my ball. So I lost quite a few balls here. Though I will say, in one of the rounds we played, Zach, I was able to finally straighten out my drive, which will be again a journey this year, because I don't know what it's been doing during the winter. But I did straighten it out, I remember, in the last couple of holes in one of our rounds, and it was great. But I still gave it a 7 and lost ball score. Andrew.
I went 6. I think just for the fact of the amount of water, the wooded area too. As Zach mentioned, there's some shots where you've got to be a little bit strategic about the path you're taking. So anytime it's not just wide open and you're like, here is my 80 yard on, from the middle that I can land, you could get into some trouble. So not the worst, but definitely opportunities to lose some balls.
Zach.
Pat, you play a power fade. That's what we like to call your drive. It's
Is that what we're calling it already?
190 yard power fade. Very, very high. I gave it a 5 on the lost ball score, mostly because and this is just from like my mid handicap perspective, I like to play controlled shots. I'm not really going for broke on every shots. And my ball ends up in the rough and in the woods a lot. And it's pretty easy to find your ball if you get stuck amongst the trees. Water aside, there's a lot of water on this course, but if you tend to lose it off the fairway or in the rough, you're going to have an easy time finding your ball, which I appreciate.
Awesome. Walkability. Again, I don't think this is too much thing that has to be discussed because we've kind of touched on it a lot. But it's an 8 for all three of us. It's a very flat course. There's not a lot of distance between holes and tee boxes. It's just a really nice, easy walker, I think. So
well set up, and they have that little tunnel that goes under is it a highway, expressway? It's a 2-lane road, but
it's a 2-lane rural.
Yeah, yeah. You can walk under that.
Listen,
to get from
Andrew,
one side
stop
to the
making
other.
fun of my speech impediment, okay? When I was a kid, I sounded like Elmer Fudd, okay? And I went to speech therapy, and
I wouldn't know.
Thank you, Zach.
You're well spoken.
Clientele, besides people like Andrew, I liked it. It was great, family friendly, great for golfers of all ages. I gave it a 9. They do let people like Andrew and Zach on, so it takes a little bit of a ding for that. But Zach, what do you got?
I also gave it a 9. You're not going to get a ton of those city folk out here where you're going to see people. Yeah, the people who take their golf way too seriously and probably belong at like a private club. You get good golfers out here, but they're all super chill and down to earth, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, Andrew.
I agree with both of you guys. Again, if you're willing to make the drive from wherever you are, but maybe, for some folks that are a little bit further outside the city, this is their local course. And that's great. So yeah, it's all positive with the clientele.
Awesome. And then traffic, I don't think we have to go too much into it, but it is going to be crowded because there are so many holes generally, except for, again, if it's raining. That one time we had basically an empty course and it was amazing. But yeah, it's going to be crowded. But again, so many holes that, well, there are a lot of people. There's a lot of space, a lot of tee times available. So I gave it a 9. Zach.
Yeah, I gave it a 9.5 just because, again, I'm a degenerate and booking a tee time same day reliably is really nice. And yeah, this course is by far the best bang for your buck in the West Michigan for golf. I'm going to say it one last time. Just because like the tee boxes are always in incredible shape. I don't know how they do it, but every other course that costs $100 a round, you get nasty tee boxes that slope off the side. Saskatoon's tee boxes are always great. The greens are always in decent enough shape where they're going to roll fair. You're going to get on, I think it's like between $50 and $60 to ride 18 here, which is, for that quality golf, is an absolute steal. So just, 9.5, can't rate them high enough.
Awesome,
in overall.
Andrew.
Yeah, I give them a 9. Zach, I think that's a great summary of the course. Good thing we didn't preface this episode with like take a shot every time Zach says best bang for your buck. Half our listeners would be just incapacitated at this point. But yeah, it's just a solid course with all sorts of holes like we've talked about, and a great spot for any level golfer.
Yeah. And that brings our total to a 106.5 out of a possible 180 average. So not bad, really. I mean, I forget what our first rating was. I might be able to look that up real quick.
Look it up real quick, yeah.
A great, just overall or score. Just a really nice, even place to play. That's a lot of fun. And as Zach hammered into our brains, the best bang for your buck in West Michigan in terms of golf. And for degenerates that need to golf the same day but don't have a tee time, they will likely have one. And so that's awesome. Yeah, I guess until next time, this was great. Wait, do we want final? Oh, yeah, Indian Trails rating.
Indian Trails was a 103.8, and Saskatoon is a 106.5. So they're kind of in line with each other. It's probably like we rated Indian Trails higher on the history and the proximity.
Exactly.
Saskatoon kind of got down on that. So, I mean, it's fairly equal.
I don't know. This is something to talk about off air. So I'm going to do that, and people can get excited about future episodes maybe, because I might want to throw an idea out there. But we'll wait for that. We'll leave you with the amazing Round Hole Rock by Jordan Good here as we say goodbye for this week. For Andrew and Zach, I'm Pat. See you next week.